Awesome, guys. As I said, I'm recording this meeting as well. So if you don't get everything, that's fine. I will send the link out to everybody. My name is Peter. I'm the onboarding manager here at OWNA. I may have had the pleasure of already speaking to most of you, in getting the setup stuff out of the way, whether it's by phone or by email and communicating that way. A lot of you may have already had the pleasure of talking to our support team who may have also helped you with your questions. So this training here is all about the accounts, the billing, and the CCS side of OWNA, and how to get that all set up and how to sort of utilize it from a day-to-day perspective, okay? A lot of it in the process might be the more basic stuff. So I know there's different types of, so there's different centers on here at different stages. Some may be just setting up their accounts for the first time. Some may have already been using their accounts but looking to get a bit of a refresher course. And other people may not even be with OWNA but looking to just sort of, get an understanding of that CCS and billing. So depending on which stage you're at will depend on how relevant the information is to you in that particular section, okay? Again, there might be some centers on here that aren't doing the CCS component because you'll be like government funded or not for profit or whatever the case may be. So in lieu of that, I will be talking about the accounts and the billing side of things first, okay? And then going through the CCS submissions and whatnot at a later stage. So you're more than welcome to stay for the first half of the training that's applicable to you and then bounce off at the end. And throughout this training, guys, just use the chat box and ask any questions you need. I'm happy to answer them along the way, but there will be a questions and answers section at the end as well, okay? Awesome, so let's get into it. As we said before, we're going to be covering all the billing and statements and the payment side of things first, and then we'll be talking about specifically the CCS for the centers that need to submit with CCS. Awesome, let's get into it. So really quickly, just even before we get into the actual slides, the way that OWNA works, and you should already be familiar with that if you've had a play around with it, even if it's our demo center, but you have the portal here, and that's what I'll be showing you through our Sunnyside demo. I actually need some, because I don't have CCS access on the demo, there might be some screens which I refer to as screenshot rather than the actual screen itself, to just show you what that screen would look like in real life, in real terms, as well as a simulator here, okay? So we're not going to be talking too much about the educator, so I might minimize that, but I've got here parent simulator, what the parents see from their end, okay? Awesome. So let's get into it. Okay, so when it comes to accounts, the first thing you're going to do is obviously, let us know that you want to, set up your accounts. And I can't even show this screen, damn. And what we'll do is under this activate update details section is create the billing structure. Okay, apologies, I didn't take a screenshot of this foresight. What will happen is you'll recommend, especially if you're doing the merchant with us, if you're going to be absorbing your costs in terms of the fees for direct debits, or you're going to be passing them on, same as credit cards, absorbing or passing them on, and then setting up that sort of billing structure, as well as for everyone that is doing accounts, regardless if you're using our merchant or not, choosing if you're going to be billing in arrears or in advance, right? Or what structure you're going to be choosing out of the drop down. So you'll come to here under CCS activate details and do that, okay? The next thing that you're going to need to do, and I'm just going to make sure I'm following my slides, is, create family accounts. Perfect. So some of you may have already had your family account list populated by us. So one thing that we do, and family accounts in OWNA are located under families, family accounts. And just a quick side note, a few of the screens that we're going to be using today will be under families. There's 3 sections: the accounts, the statements, or what we call transactions, as well as the invoices. And then we might not be covering it today, but just so you're aware, there are some accounting reporting underneath that as well, okay? And then so we're going to go to families accounts, and what we can populate for you if you, let us know what software you're using and what sort of list you need to extract for us, we can populate these account names, okay? So all the different accounts that you have in your center and the name column, okay? And we can populate that all there for you. And then what will happen with that is you'll have a whole list of all your accounts on the left-hand side here. And the one thing that we don't do with that load is link them up. And the reason we don't is just from a security point of view. We don't want to accidentally link the wrong carer and give them access to the financial information, okay? So the next step is, once that account name list is loaded, then you just go in and link them up, okay? For any centers that don't want to use us for loading their centers, or they're small or whatever reason they want to do it themselves, you can click the plus button in the top right-hand corner of the the screen here and just add in your account names yourselves. Okay. However, for the larger centers, if you want, we can load that all in for you. That's not a problem. To link your accounts, it's very simple. All you do is just find the carers and guardians that belong to that account and the children. Okay. Think of the carers and guardians as account holders. So if someone shouldn't have access to the financial accounts, you don't link them up. So they can still have access to the rest of the communication side of things, the reports and the attendances and the posts and all that for their child, but they just won't see the account side. Okay. And if you've got your account name here, all you do is just click on that account name, link up the carers and guardians by clicking in the box and selecting them from the drop down. Correct. Okay, so someone's asking a question on parents being able to fill out the DDR form. Okay, so good question. Parents will not be able to link the DDR form unless two things have happened. First of all, you sign up to the merchant and it's linked up from our end and we've given you that confirmation. And second of all, again, these accounts have been linked. The reason is because when Adam logs onto his account and he fills out all his credit card details, right, the system needs to know which account to go and store all that information in. Okay, so if the account holder isn't linked here, these details won't have anywhere to populate, and there'll be an error message saying contact the center. There's an issue, right? So that is the first step. Correct. So if you're looking from a chronological order, we load in the account names first, then we link them up. Okay. Along with loading your account names, we can also load in all your bonds, right? The reason we do bonds and account names at the beginning is because the bonds don't change much. Okay. And then closer to when you actually go live with your CCS, we can load in your balances. The reason we do it closer to the CCS live date is obviously because the balances are going to change a lot between when you first start setting up your accounts and when you actually go live. So that's why we focus on that at the later stage. Okay. And then essentially this whole screen gets populated. You'll have your account names, you'll go through link them all up. And as I was saying before, just click on the account name, click in that empty space and then select your parents from your list. Okay. It's very important as well for centers that may have not finished the data load process to focus on that first, because we can't go and link accounts or do anything in that sort of capacity unless those the children and the parents and everything are already in the database in our system. Okay, so if you haven't done that step, focus on that first, and when you get here, you can go through and link them up. Okay, and then you just click the update button. Sorry. And then once that's done, you'll have an account with all your children and multiple carers. And as I said before, you can have one or you can have multiple. Just think of them as account holders. Okay. But there's no limit on how many you can link. And then basically what that means is once they're linked up, the parents, when they go on their app, okay, can actually just go in. That's a very odd looking button. There we go. My cursor looked a bit weird. So when the parents log onto the app, this is what they'll see. They'll go onto the home screen. They'll be able to see, the timeline and whatnot. On the left-hand menu here, as long as they have been linked up to that family account correctly, they'll be able to click the statements and invoices section, and it will give them access to these sort of financial information. So they'll be able to see their invoices, their statement, as well as sign that DDR form at the top here. Okay, perfect. Anyone have any questions on any of that? All right, cool. May as well talk about the DDR form, I guess. If you guys do have questions, just add them in the chat box. I'm just going to move across. With the DDR form, depending on how you set up your billing structure and who pays what fees, when the parents click on these credit cards or direct debit options, they will also be able to see fees. Okay, so our direct debit fee is 65 cents. So because you can't see it here, it means that this center is actually absorbing that fee. Okay, so that's why it won't appear here. Whereas when you click credit card, the center is not absorbing these, it's passing it on to parents, so they'll be able to see their fees here, okay? Parent will go through, fill out all their details, sign it, and then they'll be able to, submit that, okay? Do you get a notification when they fill out the DDR form? No, I don't think you do. I don't think we notify you because it'll just be way too much notification overload. However, you can log into your portal here and you'll be able to see the payment method column here be populated. Don't quote me on that notification. I just don't see, because I'm just thinking centers would have like 100 different or 500 different, family accounts, because there's some large centers. It'll just be a notification overload. So I don't think we do notify. Okay. But you will be able to see your list populate here. Okay, so when you log into your accounts, I can clearly see who's done it, and there's also a filter on families that haven't. How do we know who hasn't submitted yet? Yep, perfect. Good question. So who has not submitted, you just go here, filter it by no payment details, okay? For anyone that's new as well, when you're using OWNA filters, make sure you run your filter first, right? Because you can multi-filter in OWNA, we allow you to just select all your filters first, then run the report, okay? And now I can see just my families that don't have this column populated, okay? Awesome. Great questions, guys. Perfect. So yeah, that's basically it. And then the family would have done their DDR form. They're all set up and we're ready to go. All right, checking attendances. All right, perfect. So one thing we're going to talk about now is the way we do our accounts. Okay. Enrollment district, not yet. Yeah, perfect. Kate, we'll get to the CCS component after this. So in case you didn't see it at the beginning, we're going to talk about accounts and billing first, and then we'll get to CCS and we can talk about enrollment IDs. So just pause your question, and when we get to it in a second, like a little bit later on in the training, just bring it back up, okay? So when we talk about accounts in OWNA, so we use invoices and we use what we call a rolling invoice system, okay? And these link up with your statements and basically ties it all in nicely together. So what that means is we generate an invoice for the period that we're looking at. If we're doing it, let's say, for example, 1 week in advance in arrears, it would be last week, which was the, what are we now, 21st? So it was the 14th. So the 14th of June to the 21st of June, and we always go Monday to Sunday, okay? So what we'll do is we'll generate an invoice for that period, and what it will do is it'll look at the 14th of June and see if there's any balance which is still outstanding, add it to the invoice, bill the family for that period, 14 to whatever I said before, 20, sorry, whatever the Sunday date is. And then it will then give them that invoice, okay? In a second, I'll show you exactly how that all works. And then, so the way that also ties in is off the statement. So as we were saying before, you'll use these 3 screens a lot: family accounts, family transactions, and invoices. So on our family transactions screen, what you can do is come here and see all your different families that you've created. And if I go to my guy, Mass, what I can do is I can select the family, then hit that green get button, and then you'll be able to see the information for that family. And it basically acts like a credit card statement. So each line item is affected by the information. So in OWNA, we have charges, which are debits, okay? We have credits, which are broken down into CCS payments, as well as other credits, which are either applied manually or payments made by the individuals, right? So that then obviously affects their balance, which then brings them into the next period, okay? So when looking at actual attendances and whatnot, you'll be able to see all the different amounts that are from an attendance point of view, and it's shown in a weekly format. So for example, the week of May 24th to May 30, for this child, we had 3 sessions. For a different child, we had 2 sessions. So maybe that week there, I think that's it, was $500, okay? So previously we had a balance of $300 owing to the center. So with that $500, we're now at $800, okay? And that's how that basically would flow on. And then you'll be able to see down here, right? We had some payments come in, right? So $3,000 worth of fees were paid. There was also a bond that was paid. So basically, that's basically reduced their balance down. And then a lot of this is fictitious data, by the way, so don't worry about it too much, but just worry about how the credits and the debits work. And you'll be able to see here. So I've already pre-generated an invoice and it's using these numbers here. So we can see here, 653 credits. So I generated the invoice for June 40 to June 20, okay? So I can clearly see that my balance prior to that was $653.50 in credit. So what the invoice will do is it'll pick that number up, add it at the start of the invoice, bill the family for the invoice amount, right, for that gap for that period of time, and then give them the balance that's owing, okay? Awesome. I've got some questions that came in, so give me 1 second. Do invoices accumulate automatically? Yes, accumulate, right? Is that what you're talking about? Like this that we were talking about before, where it like flows on? Then yes, the answer is yes. DDR form only available online. Olivia, it is available online, but we can do a manual one as well if you want, like a hard copy. The only reason we recommend doing the online version is just because it means it's less work for the center, okay? But if you really need one, we can we can do a hard copy. Yeah, just email us and we can get it set up for your center. Perfect. All right, good questions. All right, moving on. So that's how the statement will work, okay? And then basically when you generate the invoice for the next period, right? So 21st to whatever the end of this week is, 28th, I think. Then the statement will then be moved, like, you know, the attendances and what will show and all that stuff, right? So that's how the statement keeps flowing on. And obviously you've got the date picker up here where you can go backwards if you want. You don't need to muck around with the dates and stuff when you just want to see quick information. We always recommend just play around with the dates if you want to see very specific information. So a period which is before April, right? You would use the date picker to go back. Yes, there is dishonor fees. It's $2.50 for a direct debit. Okay, and I think you may have briefly saw it here. So when the parents sign on, but there's no dishonor fees for our credit card. Okay, so that's one thing to note. So you'll be able to see here, direct debit rejection is $2.50. Yeah, perfect. All right. I'm just going to try skip these CCS questions. So someone's asking about CCS estimates. We're not skipping them. We're just pausing them until we get to the CCS side of things. Okay. And then we'll go through there. But let me just see, is there any accounts related? Why do CCS estimates disappear in the current week? Oh, okay. Good question. All right. Okay. It is basically accounts for CCS, I guess. So the way it works is the system will always be able to choose between estimates and actuals. Okay. On a Monday, when we'll get to it when we get to the CCS section, you'll run your payments report, which is basically a confirmation of the CCS payments that will be coming into your bank account. When the system has the ability to use the actual data that happened last week, it will always favor that data over estimated data, right? So up until this point in time, we've been estimating all these different amounts, right? And last week, we were estimating what that week's CCS would be, okay? But in the morning of Monday, the beginning of this week is what I'm trying to say. The beginning of this week, we get our payment report. So the system knows, hang on a second, I can get some actual data for last week. Let me see what the actuals came in as, okay? Because we might have been over or underestimating, so it needs to know. I hope that makes sense. Do the families receive a notification that they have a dishonored invoice? I know that definitely they'll be able to see it here, direct debit rejection fee. I know the center gets notified. I'm not sure about the parents. I might have to pause that one and get back to you. Can we choose to afford the dishonor, to afford the dishonor fee? By afford, do you mean not pass it on? Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah, okay, so yeah, you can. So what happens is a family account will automatically get the dishonor fee applied to it, okay? If you as a center want to absorb that $2.50, you can apply a credit on their accounts, okay? You'll have to do it manually for each account. It's not an automatic process, but you can. So what you would do is come up here to the statement, add a transaction, which we will get to a bit later on how to add manual payments, but since you're asking, add a credit of $2.50, and then when Fat Zebra invoices you at the end of the month, that $2.50 will just be paid by the center. Not a problem. Okay, Laura, that question, like with the CCS not coming through or whatnot, it might be very specific and maybe easier to get the support team to help you out because it might be something specific to you and your situation, okay? But yeah, that's generally, the payment report should pull it through, okay? But definitely call them up and they'll be able to help you. All right, but moving on, okay? So when it's time to invoice, all you need to do is just come here to the family section, Invoices and Payments, and then generate your invoices. Now, when you generate invoices, as we were saying before, you just select the date that the families will be billed for, okay? Now, if you're 2 weeks in advance, for example, just select that week. So we're currently the week of the 21st, okay? Let's say I'm billing 2 weeks in advance. You would bill your families for the 5th, okay? You would then select the 5th to the 11th, okay? You'll get in the habit of doing Monday to Sunday. It'll just become a thing. For my example now, what I've done is I've selected 14 to 20, okay? Because I'm billing 1 week in arrears. And then I've just selected one family. when you build your families, you can select all families, right? Or you can go and select a combination of individual families, okay? And then in OWNA, we further have a way you can actually categorize these into family tags, okay? So especially for centers that are doing so they're doing some families weekly and some families fortnightly, you might want to generate your invoices using tags, and I will talk about it shortly. Basically, you want to create a 1 week period, and then you'll select the tag, which is weekly, okay? And then you'll create a fortnightly period and select the tag, which is fortnightly, because each family will get a different amount of sessions billed. And then obviously your fortnightly families, you won't bill them the following week, but you'll bill them the week after. Not bill them, sorry, you'll invoice them again the week after, right? So you'll be invoicing them on a fortnightly basis. If you have a lot of questions on this sort of like setup, you can always contact our team as well. And we can tell you the best thing based on your situation. But yeah, essentially you'll come up here, you'll run your dates, you'll choose your families. And then if you want to put a due date, you can, okay? Any comments that you want to apply on all your statements, you can put here as well. And you just generate your invoices, all right? Once you've generated your invoices, you will get a confirmation message to say your invoices have been generated. Please run the report below. And then all you do is just come here and click Get Invoices. Once you click the Get Invoices button, that invoice will appear. So if I was to do it live, you know what? I'm not going to risk it. I'm just going to leave that there, and I'm just going to generate it for a different period, 21 to 27. I choose my family, which in this case is Mass. I say that I want it by the end of the week. I don't know, Friday, for example, and then I'll run the report. Yeah, there you go. So you'll get that confirmation message that your invoices have been successfully generated. You can run the report below. Okay, you click Get Invoices, and then there you go. You'll be able to see those numbers. Okay, and one thing you'll be able to see. So before you saw that the family for Mass's statement was only taken up until the 20th, and that's because I had only invoiced them until the 20th, right? Now, when you look at their statement, right, you'll be able to see that it's taken all the way up until the 27th. Okay, and that's how the statements keep, going further and further and further into the future. Now, for my example, I'm only going to be using this one here, but that was just a good little way to show you live how it works. Okay, let me just see the questions. So both periods need to be the same, isn't it? Which periods? Can you just elaborate what periods you mean? Do the dishonored invoices previous to the week you generated? Yes, correct. Okay, so any payments that haven't been made or any balances that's sitting on the account because of payments that rejected or the family hasn't paid, or there might have been a discrepancy where we overestimated or underestimated CCS and the actuals came through and there's a balance sitting on the account, that all gets pulled through automatically. So both periods need to be the same. Select date period and invoice history. No, this invoice history date period, don't worry too much about it because it's focusing on the date you generated the invoice. So see how this one was generated on 17th, this one on 21st. They're both showing because they're within this date period. So don't worry too much about this date period, okay? So the most important date period to get right is this one up here when you generate your invoices. So if you're billing your families, this is the important one to focus on, okay? This is just for history purposes, okay? So don't worry too much about these dates. By default, they'll pick up your latest ones. Only worry about these if you want more accurate reporting in terms of totals and stuff like that. Just leave the default here because June 21 is when I generated it. So it will always take me into that period regardless, yeah. Awesome. Okay, so now I've generated my invoice. Now I want to show you this, guys. So I've got my family here. I've got the carried over amount, and we saw before, if I leave that open on the family statement, that the carried over amount here was 6.5. Let's just take this back. I don't want you guys get confused. So let's just take it all back as it should be. So you can see, as we were saying before, that this is the opening balance. So 65350 is that credit that wasn't applied, okay? Similarly to the question that was just asked, if this was a debit amount of, let's say, as it was up here, right, $300 wasn't paid, that then will go onto the invoice as an opening balance of 300. The next 500 will come in, and therefore the family would owe 800. Okay, so that's how it all carries over. In this particular case, the carryover is a credit instead of a debit. Okay, so that's where we start our invoice at 65350, and you can see that here as well. Okay, and then the amount that's owing is 15150. Okay, so the invoice takes into consideration what's happened in that period, in this period that we've selected, 14 to 20, and then it gives us a total of 15150. Okay, so that's what the family will essentially owe us. Right. I will get in a second the exact in betweens because we can open up the invoice. So here you'll have session details. So when you're doing CCS, you'll be able to see how many sessions you're billing for. Is it 4? Is it 6? Whatever the case is. And then also the CCS amount, just as a summary. Okay. Oh, my screen is black. Is someone saying my screen is black? Back again. Okay, yep, everyone can still see the screen? Yep, perfect. Okay, so the session details column will have how many sessions you have and the CCS amount. Your reference will be where you're billing your families for. And this is important if you're doing our direct debits, and I'll get there in a second. And then obviously you'll have the balance amount here, okay? If you want to open up the invoice, you just click the little printer button, and then you'll be able to open up that invoice. So this is what the families see as well, okay? So you can see the invoice information for the family, for the center, just a quick snapshot of the summary of what's due and when it's due, okay? And then the breakdown. So any carryovers or fees or anything like that will be applied in this top section, okay? That will all get added into this middle section, which will give us the total, okay? And the middle section here will have our session summary, which is basically the fee, the CCS, and the gap for the family for that period that we've selected. So 14 to 20, here's what the fee is for that one child with 4 sessions, it's $300. For this other child, Nova, I've got 5 sessions at $505. Therefore, the gap is $805 together. Because I had a credit of $653, the remaining balance is only $151, okay? If hypothetically this number was, let's say, $100 owing, right? Adding that on to the $805, the invoiced amount will be $905 total. Okay, so all these numbers do flow on as someone asked earlier. Now, if you want more breakdown, you can scroll a bit further down. You can see the CCS entitlements when the invoices were generated. So you can see how many absences they had, the CCS percentage in hours, and if their cap was reached. These become important when questioning the CCS amount, okay? And you can also see the day-by-day breakdown for each child, as well as the room, the session of care, the fee, the CCS estimate, and the gap, okay? And just keep in mind that this down here is based on an average, based on the CCS amount and the number of sessions, okay? And so you can see all that. And then just to quickly show you, as a parent, I also have the ability to see all that information as long as I'm linked and all that stuff. So when you log on as a parent, you'll be able to see your latest invoice up here, okay? And all that amount will be carried over. So from a parent's point of view, they only really ever need to focus on their latest invoice. So instead of having to keep track of 2, 3, 4, 5 old invoices that they haven't paid, it all just carries over, okay? If there's an amount owing, does it show the week it's owing for? So if you're talking about the carryover up here, it doesn't show on the invoice per se, okay? But keep in mind, and I will show you in a second now, that the family has access to their statement here, right? So where all the numbers were derived from. So they can see exactly why there's a $653 credit, and they will see each individual week that brought that balance across, and whether a credit was applied or attendances, okay? So yes. The answer is yes, but they'll see it on their statement, okay? It won't on the invoice, it'll just be grouped as one number. How can families fill up the DDR form? Oh, just one up here. We were just on it 2 seconds ago. Up here, when they're linked up correctly, they just fill out the DDR form, okay? So as you can see on the background here, or everything that you can see, but on a phone form, right? So basically the center, their information, those quick summaries of the total and the amount, and then obviously the credit that was applied at the beginning, as well as the CCS subsidy, which in this case was 0, the fee, and then therefore their total. Okay, so family can see all of that information. They can see even their absences, what's this called, the CCS entitlement information, as well as that day-by-day breakdown here. Okay, so they can see everything that we can see on our end here. Okay, awesome. So far, so good, guys. Yeah, I may as well close that. And then what we can do is once we're ready, so we can notify the families that their invoices are ready, okay? Yeah, exactly right. So they just click on statements invoices. So, okay, so this is the parent, right? I'm not sure which question you're referring to, but all 3 together. Parents here, and we highly recommend, just on a side note, you guys can create a dummy parent, okay, and link either your child or a staff's child or some child onto it, just for testing purposes and see how it works. Okay. And then if you don't, if you link a child that, is linked to an actual family, just remove them after you've done your test. But we always recommend doing this, not just for accounts, but let's say you do an excursion form. It's a very good way to sort of see what the parent sees. Okay. So feel free to create a dummy account and go through the process. Okay. It does help out a lot. But to answer, once the parent's logged in, they go on the left-hand side here, hamburger, they click the statements and invoices, and they can do all three things. DDR form from the top, view their latest invoice here, they'll have a view button, and then just automatically scroll a bit further down and they'll see their statement, okay? And they can change the filter on how much statement they want to see, okay? Perfect, so that's all there. Now, the next thing, naturally, is, okay, so we've invoiced our family. And what that means is we've given the ability to the families to see exactly how much they owe us. Now, we want to actually take that money from them. Now, this step will only be for people that have signed up to our merchant. And this is why we recommend signing up to the merchant, because it all flows in nicely and it's all linked, okay? So if you need help with that, just send us an email, okay? But essentially what happens is, oh no, someone's pressed it. Here, we'll be able to see. Okay, the button's not there because someone's pressed it. Someone must be testing. That's fine. So there'll be a button here next to your send notifications invoices, which shows the debit or latest reference / outstanding invoices. As you can see that like bottom line. And what that means is when you click that button, it's going to bill your latest reference period. Okay, so in this particular case, it's June 14 to June 20. Okay. Now, as you can see, and someone I was asking before, if we don't change the dates, right, we'll be able to see different periods and different, reference periods and whatnot. So one thing to note is when you click the bill button, it will only be billing your latest reference period. Okay, so you don't need to worry too much about all the other stuff that appears on the screen. That's fine. It's all good. Just note that you will just be billed for that one. So let's say you decide, and one thing to decide as a center, and there's no right or wrong way to do it, is are you going to generate your invoices one day and bill your families on the same day, or is it going to be like a day after or 2 days after, whatever the case is? Let's say hypothetically we go with Monday generating invoices and Tuesday billing our families. What will happen is on Monday, I will do this step here, generate my invoices. It'll print my summary. I'll go through and just have a quick look to make sure they all look correct. Okay. And then when I'm ready on Tuesday, I will just come in and click that bill button. And then that's it. All the families will be billed. Okay. For anyone that bills families on different days and different periods, let us know. You can create tags to sort of separate which families you bill on which days. As you can see, for example, Monday weekly. So I can run my Monday weekly tags and it will show all of my families that are Monday weekly. And then I just click the bill button. That's it. Okay. So in OWNA, you have full control when you bill. Okay. So basically you'll come in on the day you want to bill or days you want to bill and just click that bill button. Okay. So you have full control over it. Correct. After you generate the invoices, the invoices have been sent to the families. And if you want to further notify them about it, you can send the notification, but that's optional. Okay. Once you've generated it, the families can see it. Correct. And then once they see them, you'll have little eyes here. Okay. Because we viewed it twice. That shows that the family is actually seeing it as well. So one question we get is why not email them? Okay. By doing it through the app, we have full control of their track. We can track it. We have full control of the tracking mechanisms. So yeah, that's why we do everything in-house. Awesome. And then, yeah, that's it. Basically, you'll bill your families, and then what will happen is they'll change to processing. I'll see if I've got any. Let me just remove the tag. Here. I'm not sure if our dummy site has them, but no, it doesn't have any. But basically, the color will go orange and it'll go into processing state. That's fine. Yeah, see, if I open up a bigger date range, I have so many more invoices. Okay. Again, don't worry too much about it. It's just for your record keeping, so you can see all your previous invoices and whatnot. And then when you ever hit that button, doesn't matter if there's future ones as well, past ones, sorry, you'll only ever bill your latest period. Now, one thing to note with billing, when you click this debit latest reference button, it will put you into a queue, as you can see here in debiting queue. Someone actually clicked this button for us today at 10:40. Okay. So what that means is we want you to get all your debits in by 3 p.m. daily. Okay, we do a payment run every single day. And as long as you get it in by 3 p.m. daily, it means we can send it off to the merchant, which is Fat Zebra. And by 5 p.m., they process all of that, and all the accounts will go processing after that 5 p.m. Okay, so we've done it at 10:40. You just wait until the end of the day, and then you'll see everyone who's been processed go to processing. Okay, now, what is the amount in the red bubble? Good question. And now what happens is you also have the ability to bill each individual family, right? Now, why you would do that is if you wanted them to be, if they were outside that date period, first of all, right, it wouldn't be picked up in this debit queue. So you can just bill them separately, right? So if you've run a different period for one particular family because you wanted to invoice them a month or something, or whatever the case is, you can then go and just debit them, right? Or maybe you might have paused the family. Okay, so that's a good thing to talk about really quickly, and I will get to that red button. When you're on a family accounts, now look, all I'm doing here, and you might have seen me do it before, is by clicking this button here, firstly, you can open things in new tabs, but secondly, by clicking the family account name, it just quick links to the family account section, okay? And by clicking the reference, it just quick links to the family transaction section, okay? Don't need to worry too much about the quick links. You can always use the side menus as well, right? But when you're on the family accounts page, like the actual profile for that family, right, where you would linking all your parents, your carers and guardians, and your children, on the right hand side, you can do two things. Okay, you can limit a family. So even though their bill might be for $1,000, I want to limit them so no more than $200 is taken. Okay, if you update that, only $200 will be taken. And you can also pause them, right? So if you pause a family, okay, when you click this debit button, and I did it before but may not have paid attention to it, if you read the little subscript, you'll see it says accept paused account. So what that means is it will go through, look at every single latest reference, but it will skip any family which is paused, okay? And on the family screen, you can run a filter at the top, which is showing all your paused families if you want. And the reason you pause someone is like, let's say our debit date's Tuesday, and they go to us, oh, look, my payment's been delayed, so I can't pay on Tuesday. Can I pay on Thursday? You pause them, and on Thursday, you'll come in and just click that debit now button, okay? That's sort of how that process works. Yes, correct. Okay, so now a few questions that have come in. After clicking generate invoice means, yeah, correct. What is the amount in the red bubble? Good question. So this is the difference. This is the fluctuation between the last time the invoice was generated. Okay, so if you look at this family here, Lopez Rodriguez, if you were to go and you can search by just one family in this invoice history, right? You'll be able to see that their invoiced amount was different by that amount that we've said here. So 555. So these two different numbers, right? So if you take this number, right? So if you take the total amount of 19,424 minus it over that, you'll see there's a $555 difference. So the red bubbles are just there to say like there's a fluctuation between their new and their old invoice. And I think it's about $20 or $30, right? So if the difference is between $20 and $30, that red bubble comes up. And then just to sort of show you, right? Now, look, they might have picked up an extra day or whatnot, so you're aware that they're going to fluctuate. But it's just to sort of see that their accounts, it just helps with, when you're overlooking the accounts to see if anyone's a lot higher than what you expect, okay? Feel free to ignore it if you don't want to use it. Yeah, CCS might have changed. There might be so many different reasons why it's fluctuated. So just an easy way to show you why it's, there. Cool, does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone else have account-related questions? I do have a few little things I want to quickly go over, but for the bulk of it, I think I've done. Yeah, adding, yeah, perfect. They're the three that I want to go over. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask them, but there's three scenarios I want to quickly talk about, okay? Adding transactions, whether it's a payment which has been received outside of OWNA, right? Or a debit, okay? I want to talk about taking a payment amount which is different to the invoiced amount, okay? So one thing to note is anytime you click one of these pay buttons on the invoice page, it will always be billing the family that amount that they're invoiced for, okay? If you want to take a different amount, I'll show you in a second, and really quickly how tags and stuff work as well, okay? Awesome. How does the direct debit happen? What is the procedures? You just click the button, and then that's how it works. Okay, there might be a few questions piling up. Pile up your questions and I'll answer them all in a sec, okay? So now, when you go to the family statement, okay, so under, one sec. I do the quick link, right? But basically it's under families, family transactions. You find that specific family, mass, for example, and then put them up here, run the report, and you get their statement, okay? Once you're in the statement, you can actually manually add in transactions. Now, you can add in credits, which is what, like we were saying before, which is payments, okay? So they might have not paid you by direct debit for something. They might have paid you into your bank account directly, so you can go in and record it, okay? And if you're not using the billing system, this is how you would enter all your payments in, okay? And you can clearly see why the billing system, why we recommend it is because all the payments just automatically integrate, okay? So when you look at your accounts, those payments that have been taken would automatically be here, whereas on a manual process, you'll have to go in and add them in manually, okay? And obviously there's room for error and whatnot, okay? So you'll come here, add your debit, add your credit, put in the details, and that will go in and stay on the statement, okay? And anytime you do add transactions or taking payments, make sure you're very clear in your descriptions so the families know exactly what they're what that line item, whether it's a debit or a credit, what it relates to, okay? And then if you're taking a payment, same thing, come to this screen, take a payment, and you can enter whatever amount you want. Depending if they have direct debit details or credit card details, there'll be the relevant buttons here, and you just take a payment from that way, okay? If you want to take a payment from a different credit card altogether, you have that option as well, okay? So yeah, that's how you would do that. Oh, and tags. Right, and then the last thing I want to talk about is on the family accounts, you can actually tag your families. So as you can see here, we've gone through and tagged our families with quite a few different tags. Now, the reason you might want to tag families is to group them all together, especially when, and one thing I didn't mention, when adding transactions, if the transaction is the same, like same amount, same credit, same day, whatever, you can add it on a multiple level, okay? And you can either select different families like this, right? Or you can tag them, okay? So now when you're looking at tags, just think of it as an easy and fast filtering mechanism, right? Instead of having to select 35 different families individually, right, that all apply under one category, then you can just create a tag and use it that way. So I can apply that, credit or debit in this case to that tag. You can use tags when generating invoices, okay? So as we were talking about before, if you have weekly and fortnightly families, you can create a tag here, tag them as weekly, and then every single time you generate a weekly period, you select the weekly invoice family, generate, and it'll generate for all those families, okay? And then you can also bill using tags. So if you have certain people paying on different days, you can tag them accordingly, and then on Monday, you'll run, let's say, for example, your weeklies, you'll do your Monday weeklies. Make sure you always run that report, okay? It'll show you just the Monday weeklies, and then you'll bill, okay? If in this particular case, you're also doing Monday fortnightlies, because I know some people have fortnight A or fortnight B or whatever, you'll then run that tag, and then you can keep clicking this button, by the way, and it'll bill them as well. And that's it, okay? I know I skipped over that, but if you do have, is there a monthly option? Same thing, monthly. Anything you guys want to do, you just create the date period. There's no, you don't have to create it per se. Like, it's not something you do. You just create it by a tag. So yes, if you want to accept a monthly payment, you definitely can offer that. And what we always recommend is if you're going to bill the family for a monthly, just make sure you select that monthly period when generating the invoices. So let's say 21st of whatever that is, June to 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So you take it all the way, okay? So you just create a monthly, I'm hoping that's 4 weeks, generate that invoice for that family, and then when you bill them, it's billing them on a monthly basis, okay? Now, when it comes to using tags, if you only have 1 or 2 families, you may not consider making a tag because you can just as easily know the families, and select them this way, right? Might be faster. Whereas if you have 35, doing this 35 times can be a bit, time consuming. So just create a tag and link them up, okay? And when we're talking about tags and applying them, you come to the family accounts screen, okay? Here where you have all your accounts. At the top up here, you have a family tag section, create the tags, and then you can apply them to the families, okay? So when applying to the families in a bulk setting, just tick this little checkbox, okay? So this family, this family, this family are all my, weekly or whatever tag you've created, and then you just go and apply it, okay? So let's say, for example, I tick, let's do weekly this one, okay? If they currently have tags and you want to override everything, you can actually click that override current tags button and look at these tags here, right? They'll all just be gone. And every family I've just selected is now part of that section, okay? If I didn't click override, it would just add that tag on top of, okay? So let's say, for example, these are weeklies, right? But they're also, I don't know, IS or something that we've got. Yeah, I can tag them without overriding and it just adds a tag. And that's it. Just an easy way to filter, and then you can filter them this way as well, okay? So you can see or my family just have an IS tag. Done. Nice and easy. Does that make sense for everyone? All right, I think there's another question on accounts. Do you add center pay payments through yes, correct, you do. Center pay payments through transaction tab, FPOS, direct debits, that sort of stuff. And even if you have like, if you're like in Queensland, you get like, QKFS and all those sort of credits that apply, you do that all the same way. If you have questions on a specific situation, feel free to call us and we can, run it through. Okay. How do I debit if the payment is made full for the fortnight question? Also 200 extra on top. Okay, so you want to say you want to get like that whole. So the question is, I have a debt that's outstanding. Okay, I'm obviously invoicing my family for that amount, but I want to also take an on top of payment. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll bill your family for this amount here. Then you'll go into the family transaction screen and take an extra $200. Okay, and then when you're writing the description, just make it very clear that this is a payment that's paying off debt or payment plan or whatever the case is, right? But that's how you'll do it. So that way you'll have both this amount and that extra $200 or whatever taken. Okay. Do you apply a payment that a family has? How do you apply a payment that a family has transferred into your account? So yeah, direct debit. Again, Claire, the same thing we we're just talking about now. Go to the family transaction screen. Right, this is the fast way to get there. And then click that add transaction button. Okay, so this button will only appear if you've actually selected a family. If you don't select the family and you just go and click this button here, family transaction, nothing will appear until you select your family, right? Hit that get transaction button and then you'll see it there. Okay, and then you'll add in a credit because it's a payment. So this family paid me $100 to my bank account, and then you'll have a whole different range of someone's asking about center pay and whatnot, different way you can record that payment. And then obviously, as we said before, we're not going to talk about it today, but you have reconciliation reports that you can run to sort of reconcile all those payments added. I understand we can manually put 200, but how do we make sure fortnightly are debited only for fortnightly amount? Oh, okay, good question. Okay, so I think what you're saying is the family has a debited amount, like an amount outstanding, right? But we don't want it to roll over onto their invoices. Like, let's say this was like this one here, like they have a certain amount that they're owing, but we don't want that amount to actually roll over, right? What you can do is, yes, correct. Yeah, I'm answering that now. So what you can do is you can actually come here and there's an extra section here, which is use special conditions, and you can actually choose to not carry over the balance. Okay, so it's only going to bill them that amount from start period here to end period here. Okay, so like in this particular case, I know it was a credit, but it will only bill the family this amount here, right? Not anything carried over. Now, look, we only recommend using that in certain situations. Obviously, you guys will know when, but the reason we say run the whole invoice is because you want your families to know, okay? And even if you did that, do not carry over a balance, right? Keep in mind that the balance still stays on the statement. It just doesn't bring it into their latest invoice. So when they look at their latest invoice, they just pay that amount for that fortnight, right? Good questions. We plan to generate, yeah, you can generate invoices weekly, but the direct debit might be weekly or fortnightly, depending on each family. Yeah, that's fine, Olivia. And if you want more specifics on your situation, give us a call and we can tell you the best structure. But my recommendation is if someone's paying fortnightly, okay, I would always run a fortnightly period, okay? Or what you can do is you can run 1 week, okay? You know they're not going to pay for that week. So that when you run your next week, what's going to happen is they'll just have that week carried over onto their invoice, okay? Reason I say run a fortnight instead of doing it that way, even though both are correct, is that one just has a big carryover amount. It's just one big number. And sometimes the parents get confused what that number is. But I have many centers that do that, so it's fine. They just generate all their invoices weekly and they just bill families as needed. So yeah, that's totally okay. And if you need more instructions, let us know. All right. I know that we're time-wise, we might have spent a lot of time on that account, so I do apologize. I will try and go through the CCS for anyone that's interested. But yeah, that's basically how we do our accounts. It might have taken me a bit of time to explain it because I want to go in details, but essentially it's a very easy process. And one thing we didn't mention, but obviously you'd be on top of, is always make sure, especially if you're invoicing in advance, that you go to that specific week, check all your fees and your sessions and all that sort of stuff is correct before entering your invoices. As well as if you have payments that have come into your account, make sure you add all those in first, right? Before actually generating invoices, because it's going to affect the balances. But yeah, that's basically it. Now, the next most important thing, and I might just like try going important sections, and this is for CCS. So anyone that's not doing CCS, this part doesn't really apply to you, is how do we submit our sessions? That's going to be the next question I'm going to definitely get, is and is it done automatically or manually? Okay, so both, you can select manually or automatically, and the way you do it is like this. You go to the CCS section here, and then under CCS you'll have a section called Session Reports. Okay, you'll come to your session reports here, and what you'll do is, if you want the automation, you put it on, right? And from an automation point of view, we submit your data at starting from 10 p.m. every Friday, okay? So instead of you having to wait until the last child is checked out, you can just turn that on, go home, and just know that whatever data is in the system will be submitted for you, like we'll do automatically for you, and then we'll email you the report to say it's all been done correctly, or there was some issue, please go in and have a look. Okay, so that's how you would do that there. When you want to do it from a manual point of view, it's a very similar thing, but instead of just turning on the automation, what you would do is, how do I get rid of that? Okay, so this should automatically, so because there's no CCS set up, it might be a little bit different on mine, but for yours, it should automatically, not really, just to be honest. Someone's asking, do we get a lot of mistakes from centers on the auto submit? Not really, and I'll show you why. So this week's the 21st, right? So what happens is you'll have the submission date automatically there, okay? And what happens is throughout the week, owners constantly looking between Monday and Friday at all your attendances. And this is why there's not many issues, right? Because when you log in, you can log onto this screen at any day, right? You'll be able to see every single child and anyone that hasn't been signed in, signed out, any child that has no fee or any sort of thing that the system wants to bring to your attention. The most important thing to note is that it's okay to submit with errors, right? It just depends on that type of error on how the submission will go through. Because obviously you might have special circumstances where you don't charge the family, therefore no fees applied. And obviously the system wants to tell you, hey, there's no fee to this session, right? So obviously you're aware of that, you can just skip it, right? But you can come in here and see, because it's Monday to Friday, if you log in on a Thursday, you just want to make sure that all of these days have nothing prior to Thursday, or that they're all taken care of. So you can easily keep track of all your attendances throughout the whole week. And then on Friday, what's going to happen is you'll just have those few children left over that haven't signed out. So making sure that they're all signed out and that they're all done. Yeah. Awesome. I'll get to that question in a second. Now, if you're automatically submitting, you've gone through, you've checked all your, manually submitting. You've gone through, checked all the errors, it's all good, system's ready, right? If you get to 0 errors, you get a green confirmation message, as we got before, saying something like this. Your attendances are ready to submit, okay? And then if you have errors, obviously you'll see them like that, right? And that's how many warnings you have. Now, you can edit all your warnings from here, provide sign-in times, sign-out times, mark children as absent and whatnot, and then you can update it. So let's say, for example, there's no sign-in or sign-out time, the child is meant to be absent, I mark them as absent, my warning goes down. It's as simple as that. And then you'll come here to submit them. So you just select all your children, select the date that you're submitting for this week, select all children, and click the green submit button. That's it. It's as simple as that. You just have to wait till that last child, sort of signed out. Perfect. All right, so I got through the crunch of it. There are other things that we can go through. I think some of the stuff that's on my slides, because I have guides on it, I might point you guys to the guide, okay? Just be mindful of time and the recording, that's all. It is really easy. Honestly, the accounts and the billing stuff, I don't know how it works in other systems, but we get told a lot of times that it is just so easy. Like, the most important thing to think about is when you're doing this is just as long as you're going in, periodically throughout the week or at the end of the week or whatever, and you're just on top of your numbers and your sessions and your fees and whatnot, then when you submit your data, it's all nice and easy. Like someone was asking me about, I think it's Quick Kids. They do like a submission on Friday, but they also do a top up on Monday. And I'm thinking like, why do you need to do a top up if you've got it right on Friday? As long as you've done everything correctly on Friday, there's no need to do a top up, right? But a few things while we're on submissions, okay? Let's get into it. So someone's asking, how do you know if you've submitted everything correctly? All right, so good question. Now we have two different reports you can run when it comes to submissions. You can run this report here, which is View Submitted Sessions Report, okay? And I have, oh, did I close them? Give me a sec, guys. Because I don't have access to it, I took some photos for you guys so you can see exactly what the report looks like. Oh no, wrong. Give me a sec. I thought I had it open. I must have accidentally closed it. No. I apologize. I did have it open earlier today. Here's what I want to show you. So session reports, where is it? Yeah. So what happens is when you run that View Submitted Session Reports screen, okay? And then for anyone that's wondering, I think this photo does show it if it loads. It's under CCS Session Reports, okay? What you'll be able to do is you'll be able to view the submitted session for that period. So in this particular example, I did 7th of June to 13th of June, okay? I did all my children and run the report. You can also filter by an individual child if you want to see a specific session, a specific case, right? And if you're doing an individual child, you can run an even larger date range, okay? And basically it will tell you the reporting period that you submitted for, when you did the submission, okay, and what the actual individual day-by-day submission looked like. So in this particular case, so I've just blanked out the children and enrollment IDs for security, but basically you'll have that list there. So let's say, for example, Jackson, and I submitted Jackson for the 8th of June, right? The fee was $110 and the hours were $10.50, and the sign-in time and sign-out time are recorded there as well, okay? So you can run this report from, where were we? Here, from the session reports, and you'll be able to see all your children that have been submitted, okay? And it will be able to show you all the data that has been submitted for them, okay? The only thing that this report does not do is show you which children have not been submitted, okay? So in that particular case, you would just come down to the CCS section and go to weekly attendance fee. Now, again, can I run this report? Yes, I can. Okay, awesome. So with the weekly attendance fee screen, okay, this actually goes through more of a summary point of view, and just with a tick or a cross, show you which child has been submitted and which child has not been submitted. And you can also see which children have no enrollment IDs, because if they have no enrollment ID, they're obviously not submitted anyway, okay? So when you run that report, again, you select your week, it shows you on a weekly basis for this particular week. Albert, in this case, has an X, so they weren't submitted. If you have a child which wasn't submitted, you can actually click this little arrow button here, and it will just submit them straight there from that screen, okay? If there's an error, it'll come up on the right-hand side. Let's see what happens if I try. Okay, it might be more elaborate, your error. It'll tell you exactly what it is. So like no enrollment exists or whatever the case is, and you'll be able to see it up here on the right-hand side. So yeah, and again, if you're on automation, OWNA will send you a report, like an email saying there were errors on your submission. Please come here, run this report and see which children it is, okay? And to help further filter things, you can run a report with just children with no IDs, okay? Especially when you're getting set up and you're pulling through your IDs. And you can also show just session CCS errors only, okay? Someone had a few CCS related questions earlier. If you're still online, do you just want to put them back up? Because I can have a quick scroll. How do CCS estimates disappear? No, it's different. It was quite early on. Oh, yeah. How do we enter enrollment IDs for children who have not yet had the information come across? Okay, good question. That's following up from where I'm at now. And I think there was another CCS related question. I'm not sure. If anyone has that CCS related questions from prior, feel free to add them in now. But yeah, basically you'll have all these IDs. Now, someone was asking, for a child that doesn't have an enrollment ID, how do we actually give them one? So one thing that we do is when we actually transition softwares is we can pull through all your enrollment IDs across, okay? Populate this list here, and you would have instructions on it if you're in that stage. If you've done that and there's a child that doesn't have an enrollment ID, you can always go to that child's profile, and the official way to go there is children, view all children, and then there'll be like a little filter here. You can search that particular child, in this case constable, right? And then click on their name, okay? The unofficial or fast way to do it is from this weekly attendance screen. This is just a quick link to that child's profile, okay? However you get there, just get to the child's profile and you'll see, because I don't have CCS turned on, you won't be able to see it right here, but you'll see a CCS section right here on the right-hand side. And then once you click that CCS section, you'll be able to create an enrollment for them. On that note, good question, Laura. I'll get to that in a sec. Children, what am I doing? CCS, yeah, because I can't show you. I can show you the tutorial. Nope, wrong one. This one. So, for anyone that doesn't know what I did, on the left-hand side here, under tutorials, tutorial guides, we have what we call our OWNA Help Center, which is different guides, videos. It even links to our YouTube channels, recorded sessions, like different videos that we've done, and individual guides within each of these sections to help you with whatever you need, whether it's programming or parent stuff or staff, documentation or whatever it is. You can come to this guide and have a look. Okay, so we're in the CCS usage section at the moment. We're using our CCS and we have a question. So we can come here. And even if you don't know where you're looking, you can just search it at the top. Okay, so you can type in CCS and find out where it comes. And when you come to this CCS section here, it says submit and create enrollment to CCS. Okay, so basically same thing as we're talking about. Click on the child's name, go to view your children, click on the child's name. You want to ensure that you have all the correct information, okay? And then you'll just go into that CCS tab that I was talking about, which I don't have. Put in the arrangement type if it's like CWA or RA. Make sure you have the correct information for the primary carer as well. And then you'll just go to the bottom and you'll create new enrollment to CCS. And it'll look something like this here, okay? And then when you're creating an enrollment, you can only do from today or previous dates, okay? So CCS can backdate, they just can't future date enrollment. So you just start it today if they're starting in the future, and it gives the parent the ability to go in and confirm that and whatnot. Perfect. We've done many trainings on this sort of CCS stuff, so feel free to plug into those for more details. And also, I think I just closed it, but on that OWNA Help Center down there, it's got everything about how to cease them, how to update the enrollments, how to do, all the different things you need to do with enrollments. Okay. Where's the best place to see historical changes? Great question. So entitlements, once you've done that whole enrollment process and the parents confirmed it, you'll be able to see your entitlements. Now, I can close that here. From like menu point of view, you go to CCS and then you go to entitlements, okay? Now, because my screen's blocked, I've got some photos for you, but by default, you'll be able to see all the entitlement changes, and OWNA will actually email you when there's a change in entitlement. And that screen is actually really cool. I like this one a lot. It will actually show you that as we were seeing before, all the different children that had any changes recently, and it'll tell you what their previous amounts were and what their new amounts were. Okay. And the enrollment IDs will be imported automatically for you. As long as you just get that B2B device created, okay? Yeah, so your changes here, and it'll tell you if it's gone up or if it's gone down, and if it was the percentage or the hours or maybe the annual cap has been reached, okay? So that's actually changed, so you'll be able to see that there as well. So it'll tell you what the change was, so from a CCS point of view or a gap fee or whatever the case is, what that implication will mean. Awesome. So this family here will start paying full fees. So when you generate the invoices, why you might not see CCS anymore. Yeah. And then you can obviously search one particular child. I think I've got a photo of this actually. Okay, so what you can do from the entitlements pages is not only see the changes, but you can actually run the report for all your children, and you can see every single child at that particular date, right? What their hours and what their percentages was for each individual children, as well as you have like a total of all the absences. That's a question we get a lot. How do I know all my children in the center's absences? Okay. And one thing to note with absences is it does pick up other centers that they've attended as well. It's not just yours. Okay. It's as a CCS enrollment, like that child as one whole. Okay. Perfect. And then I had one more, entitlements, individual. So you can see that child's individual entitlements. Okay. Come here and you can see just that one child by selecting from the drop-down filter, and then you'll be able to see all that information, but just for the one child. Okay. And you can then change the date filter to see how their entitlements changed over the period. Okay. Awesome. After submitting the attendance, we notice the sessions we booked for a child is not correct, and then update the proper sessions. So resubmit. Okay, cool. Good question. So someone's saying I've just submitted my sessions, right? Here, but the information I've viewed up here in the view submitted session report is not what is not accurate, right? So what you need to do is, number one, is you need to go fix the actual information in the system. Go to the attendances, fix that all up so it's all accurate in the system. And then you just need to what we call update. So like resubmit in inverted commas, resubmit that information to CCS so they're aware of it as well. So when you're doing that, all you need to do is just come here to submit session reports. And once you've selected the child, the date, the children, whatnot, you can then come and click update session report. And what that will do is it will replace the old one. So let's say the fee in the old one was 100, but it should have been 130. I've gone through, I've updated that in my attendances, and now I'm re-pushing that across. And what will happen is here, yep, any child which has been withdrawn, right, or replaced will be highlighted with this red, what do you call this? Red highlight background box here. And in this particular case, you'll say replaced here. This will be red, and then this part at the top here will be the new information. Okay, so this information to this information must differ somehow. I don't know exactly what it is, but you'll be able to see the old one and the new one. Okay. Yeah. And then if you like, in my case, these will be 100, 100, 100, and that will be 130, 130. Okay. Good question. And then the last thing I really just want to talk about is for anyone doing CCS as well as accounts is your payments. So the process is on Friday, you will submit your sessions, right? Or we will do it for you starting from 10 p.m., whatever, or you'll do it manually, it doesn't matter. That all goes to the CCS department. And then on Monday, we should be able to get our payment report to actually see what CCS is applicable. So you'll come here to CCS payments and you'll be able to run that report. Okay, so yeah, so you'll be able to see the start date, okay, so one thing to note with the payment report is, so you go to CCS, you go to payments, you're looking at the payment week, okay? So for example, this week, and they will pay for last week's sessions, okay? So even though I've put 21 up here, right? And you don't go past what today's date is because it doesn't let you. Your session report date is for last week, which is the 14th. Okay, so I can see each individual child, the total amount that I'm expecting, and the clearing numbers and whatnot, and then it'll show me each individual breakdown. Each individual amount for each child. Okay, as a total for that week. And what I'm looking for at the beginning of the week is just to make sure that this status column here in the right-hand side has all cleared. I don't know if I can highlight. Yeah, perfect. So I want to make sure that these have all cleared because, okay, that's annoying. Because once they've cleared, that will then go onto the accounts. So then I can then invoice my next sessions, and it will be picking up the actual CCS as someone was asking earlier today. Perfect. Now, I think I'm going to leave it there, but there are other things that you can do on the CCS, and I'll just quickly point them to you. One is the CWAs. So parents can sign CWAs on their app, okay, really easily. Once they're linked to their child, they'll go to the child's profile, click the little drop-down box and sign a CWA, okay? And then once they've done that on the CCS section here on the CWA, they will all get captured. It'll show you children that don't have their CWA filled yet and ones that have been, okay? As well as the CCS Session Subsidy is a way of seeing a breakdown of a payment. So we know that we're going to get $130 or whatever for that one child for that whole week, and it breaks it down. What am I looking for? This one here. Okay, so if you go to the CCS Session Subsidy, you'll be able to see that whole breakdown and the day by day. So I know the total amount was 25496. Oh, this was annoying, wasn't it? 25496. And I can see it's because I received $63 each day. Okay. Here you'll be able to see different things like if the parent was paid instead of service, you'll see individual, as well as if things like annual caps have reached or they've run out of their entitlements, so they exhausted their hours and whatnot. You'll be able to see all that here. And yeah, that's basically how it all works. CWA is compulsory for all families to fill up. Yes, Olivia, it is. And the question you want to ask is, if you've previously done it, do you want to use OWNA's system as a complete new thing? So some centers decide, okay, I'm going to OWNA, I may as well just get everyone to re-sign a CWA form, especially because there might have been changes that we forgot to pick up and whatnot. Or if you've already got a form that you're happy with, you can always upload it onto the child's documents. Okay, you don't have to use ours. A CWA is just an agreement, right, between the center and the parent to agree for their terms and their fees and whatnot. It can even be an email, but we just make it nice and easy by using the app to get that done as well. Perfect. So I know there was a lot covered, and I think that was pretty good for time, an hour, 15 minutes. I'm not going to complain. I have gone a lot longer in the past. So yeah, basically your turn to ask questions. I know there's been a lot of questions throughout this thing, and it's been very engaging. I'm very appreciative that people have asked questions because they've really expanded the ways that I sort of things I could, point out in the system and whatnot. But after all that's said and done, does anyone have any further questions? Is there anything that we went through that, maybe wasn't covered well enough or, wasn't answered? Let me know in the chat box. I'll be more than happy to answer it. For anyone that's sort of like, I've had a great time. That's been a great a great amount of information, and you just want to take a pause there. I'm totally on board with that. You don't have to ask questions if you don't want to stay for this part. Feel free to, take this information, indulge it, go into your centers and have a play with it as well, okay, depending on which stage you're at. For anyone that needs extra help, I know there was someone I did relate to because it was a more specific situation. Feel free to get in touch with our support team, okay? support@owna.com.au. We'll be able to help you with anything you need. And, we're always here to support you guys, okay? Awesome. And for anyone that's, sorry about that, anyone that hasn't signed up yet, was just looking at OWNA CCS component and they've gone, yep, that's fantastic. I'm ready to take the next step. Send an email to either support or whoever you've been communicating with, and we can get you started as well, okay? Awesome. Let's go through this. CWA is compulsory, yes. Do we have to put enrollment IDs manually? So they will be imported. I think I answered that before, as long as we have access to that to the CCS database through the B2B device. If you need help with that, give us a ring and we'll help you with it. It should be like generally when your CCS is activated, we send you like an email with different steps. It would be in those steps, but if you've lost that email or whatever, just let us know. Will you send the video recording to our emails? Yes, I haven't decided exactly how we're going to do that. I'll get the recording uploaded somewhere and then I will just inform everyone. But yeah, those emails that you use to subscribe to these trainings is what I'm going to use to forward them out. So yeah, there will be some type of link. I think we'll just upload it to YouTube, to be honest. We're absorbing every detail you provide. Perfect. That's great to hear. What I'm going to do, guys, I'm just stop this recording. So yeah, I just want to say, just for the recording purposes, thank you so much, guys. I hope this training has been great. And yeah, if anything you need further, just get in touch with one of our support team and we'll be able to help you.